My name is Senta Holmes, and I am the Community Resilience Outreach Coordinator with the Elkhorn Area School District. And we also have a guest speaker tonight.
Hello.
Why don't you go ahead and
Yeah.
you may have to
Well, hello. My name is Nate Stenholtz, and I'm a pastor at Southern Lakes Church on the north side of Elkhorn, and I've been there only since July. But I've been doing family ministry for over 25 years, and so this is a topic I'm excited about to help families to live with some more intentionality when they come to their schedules. So I'm excited to be here.
Well, thank you, Pastor. And you do have an expertise on this, don't you?
Well, I do teach one of my college classes, one that has a section of a 3-hour lecture, very interactive lecture, but on this topic. And so it's one that's close to my heart, and I've tried to practice it in my own home with my own family. And so to teach it in a college setting and then in the church setting, it's just been really helpful and practical.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much for taking the time and how presenting tonight. And if you folks have any questions, please put it in the chat. We'll be more than happy to accommodate you. And I actually will drop some information for you in the chat where you would have this presentation as well as other documents. So let's get going. So tonight we're going to learn techniques on how to better manage schedules and new ways to teach your family time management skills, because we all know that time is short in our world, right? All right.
So true.
Get going here. There we go. So there's many different ways for time management, and we focus on the 4 Ds of time management. Do, which is working on tasks that only take a few minutes to complete, and you quickly accomplish a series of smaller tasks to build momentum. We also talk about defer. This could also mean delay, which temporarily pause a task that doesn't need to be handled right away. Just maybe that break a little bit that you need, and schedule when you are available, probably less pressure too. Delegate, which this is where personally I'm very poor about, but reassigning an essential task to somebody else. And then delete, remove unnecessary tasks from the schedule. And sometimes I think we do that unconsciously.
You know, Cinda, I love the defer because I think for me, people are so important. So my kids, if I was working on a task and it wasn't of the highest priority, I would actually defer to put that task on pause to be with my kids, to give them that attention that they needed at that moment. And so I was prioritizing the relationship over that task at times. And then at other times I flipped it, where I was with them and I said, you know, to my kids, I really need to respond to this phone call. It's going to take me 10 minutes and then I'll be right back. And so they learned that I was able to create margin and balance in both worlds, which I found really helpful as we raised our kids. I'm not perfect, they're not perfect, but that was one thing that I really thought of when we think of deferring.
I like how simply you put that. It doesn't have to be a hold on the horses. There's so much going on, guys, just wait. It doesn't have to be like that. It's very simple and make it an everyday conversation. I like that technique. Thanks, Pastor. So then we look at the core benefits. So core benefits is by improving personal time management, you're also improving many other factors in your life, right? So that it is said that having a proper time management strategy can improve your focus, quality of work, reduce stress levels, better sleep patterns, which that's another big fault of mine personally, time freedom, and better way of life balance. And I think we all would like that life balance. And you even spoke about that in the previous slide, Pastor.
Yeah. One thing I find helpful, and if I had a whiteboard, right, it would be, take that word time and cross off the T and the I. And this is about me management. And because we all are given the same amount of time in a day, we don't have, Senta doesn't have more than 24 hours, and I only have 23, right? It's that we all have the same amount of time in the day, in the week, in the month, all of those things. And so how do we manage ourselves? And then what are those priorities? When I think of these core benefits, I think of what are the priorities that we're trying to live by for ourselves, as well as model and pass on to our kids. And I don't think it's unique to me. I've heard it in lots of places, but maybe you've even seen it sent to too. But the jar, there's a jar and you put rocks in it, and those are those big rocks, those big priorities, and then you fill the rest with sand. But if you start with sand and then try to put all the rocks in, you don't have time for all those same priorities. And I think of this when I think of these benefits. Like, I want my priorities to be right, and I want to put them in first. And then everything else seems to really fit around those type of really helpful conversations and benefits that we'll be getting to the rest of our time tonight.
I really like how you explained, take the TI out of it for me, because I'm a visual person, and to see that and then go, oh, filling my cup up. It's about me in a sense, so I can be better for others. That is perfect. Thank you. So 5 ways to better manage your family schedule. This is a single mom of 3 kids. I would take any tricks of the trade that I can possibly have with this. So let's see what we have here. Use a timer for due tasks, prevent spending more time than you intended, and help stay focused and not stray, which I am one to stray. I'll be the first one to admit. So, Pastor, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I love the timer. And so that's really helpful for for work. Like you set aside, hey, I'm going to work on this project, or I'm going to respond to emails during this time. And so when you're parenting and trying to set that family schedule, whether they're young kids or elementary kids or teenagers, like, okay, what are the things that we really need to focus on and set the time? And so to give them steps towards the process and towards the goal, I think it's just super helpful to really think through and realize the benefits of that. In January, we got a puppy. And so this little puppy is teaching us these same types of things because it just eats up all our time and consumes our time. And so setting tasks for ourselves and in the calendar and for our kids, all of that just builds upon what's really important for us, and not to get distracted or stray from the most important priorities that we're thinking through.
I think one task that it is social media. And this is something I look on my phone. I actually have a timer on my phone that tells me how long I'm on social media accounts. And I think that you can go down a rabbit hole, right, with social media. So I think that is one good thing, like with the puppy. They both correlate. Okay, let's see what we have in that. Oops.
I think of this other thing. I printed it out for us, and it kind of goes with this one. It goes with some of our calendar things. But there's a book on time management by Dan Kelly, and I just love his phraseology. He talks about time vampires. And it says, time vampires are needy, thirsty, selfish, vicious creatures who are given an opportunity will suck up all your time and energy, leaving you white, weak and debilitated. And so this whole idea of a time vampire that just wants to suck that in, and that's what social media can do. That's what constantly looking and responding to an email or catching the same TV show. And so to really this big word, we talked about it before, but how do we live proactively? By setting some of these limits up ahead of time, help us to not live reactive, but proactive, especially when it comes to the use of our time and how we're actually modeling that for our kids is a really big deal.
And we know that kids are always watching on what we're doing. So you're spot on modeling it for our children. Let's see what we have next. We have time management. I'll create a calendar. So monthly calendars are beneficial to time management for families because everyone is able to see the monthly agenda. This calendar should include important school work events, family gatherings, special occasions, appointments, and more. This calendar should also include small things like relaxing and with kids or playing games with kids to make certain that these essential family bonding days happen. Research shows that kids whose parents play with them are more likely to grow up happily and emotionally healthy. I'm one that advocates put everything on the calendar. I put a workout time on the calendar. I do it because I like that physically marking it off. I feel very gratifying when I do that.
Yeah, the calendar can be our friend. I love how you said, even scheduling that time to be with your kids. I think that's so important. Sometimes we, as parents, can get so busy just being, whether it's a taxi driver or we just show up at their events or their special things, which are super important. But where can we just sit down and play? So if we have young kids, it's that important to get down at their level and just play with them, to engage them at every phase of life. And so it looks different when they're teenagers. One of the things that drives me nuts, and hopefully you'll never catch me doing it, but you're out at a restaurant or at a coffee shop with your kid and you're having that one-on-one time and then the parent is on the phone.
Yes.
And you're just modeling for them like, oh, whatever's on that phone is more important than you. And I like, that's so dangerous. And so consistency with our calendars, creating routines and rhythms, right? That goes into the use of time. One thing that I stumbled upon by accident in my parenting that I found helpful was looking at the school calendar ahead of time and when are they going to be most stressed. So my youngest daughter just got done taking the ACT. And so it's like, oh man, this is a high stress time. So we purposely planned a fun trip to Minnesota. So this last weekend we were in Minnesota and just having a fun time, seeing a part of our family, but just intentionally planning some fun. 2 years ago, we went at the year anniversary of COVID being done. We drove to Tennessee and saw our favorite band live and in concert. They're finally doing concerts again. They had the nice social distancing, separated, so we felt safe in that way too. But it was just this really fun, intentional time on a calendar to say, I want to invest in the priority of my kids. But it took time to put on the calendar, proactively look at the school calendar to know when those stressful times are for your kid, because they might be different than what the someone else's kid or what the normal rhythm is because of sports or work or calendaring or tests or whenever that is for your own kid.
I really like also how you collaborated a very emotional, healthy time. So the anniversary of COVID, somebody could look at that as a very down and detrimental. And you kind of said, no, we can celebrate going out and listening to band and enjoying life. So not only being purposeful for putting it on the calendar, but you're also being purposeful on that emotional, healthy aspect of it. That is a good collaboration with both.
Yeah, that's so important, right? It's that we are holistic beings. We're not just human doings, yes. We're beings. And so we have to take attention to that mental health side of things. So in this calendar, like another thing we stumbled upon, I think it actually came from one of our kids, was there's so many different apps.
Yeah.
So you can have a shared app for, especially when you get to teenagers, and they have their work schedule and their stuff at school and all this, and we can just put it onto one calendar. So I don't know if you do that, Cinta, or if you have a physical calendar where everybody can see it in the kitchen or wherever. But yeah.
It's teaching my young boys to use a group calendar. That's the struggling part. But I actually have both. I have the electronic calendar that I share with certain folks that have my work duties and my personal duties and whatnot. But I also have the old school where I can put stickers and mark that crossing off and feel very validated for myself the old school way. So I like both.
Yeah, the physical calendar where they can see it, and they can almost feel the weight of this too as our kids get older, like, well, mom and dad or whoever's at home, like this is a really busy season for them too. And they begin to see, hey, I'm a part of the family. The family doesn't revolve around the kid, you know. So I think one thing, it's around priorities, but it's also around calendar, is I think about, we try to live as parents a reflective life. So every season, so what are those rhythms that fall into your family's schedule, whether that's a weekly, monthly, so for us, it was quarterly, and say, hey, what does our family schedule look like? And we evaluated that. We reflected on it. Were we too busy? Were we not busy enough? Is there margin in our lives? Like we believe that parenting happens in the margin. And we see margin every day in the books that we read or the papers that we do at work or whatever. It's like, oh, there's a margin there for us. It's a built-in thing that we can be, oh, that's a reminder. It's not just about the tasks. So we pause and say, all right, maybe we need to cut back on something. Is it you can't be involved in 3 sports. Let's just pick one, or one school activity for after school, and just trying to work together as a family to reflect back and make sure that we're not over busy so that we're missing out on those main priorities that are important to us as a family and that we need to have in the calendar to stay very healthy ourselves, physically, emotionally, spiritually, all those things. And so it really helps us to make sure we're staying balanced.
Balance is key. And I think that sometimes we feel like we can't say no. And then when we don't, we have a remorse and then we do feel unbalanced. So I do like how you shared it's okay to say no. It's healthy. It's healthy sometimes to say no.
Yeah, and maybe sometimes parents need permission.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
wrote that down on my notes even today. Like, it's okay to say no to your kids.
Yeah.
And they're going to be okay.
Yes.
And we need to say no to certain things too for ourselves so that we can be healthy ourselves. Otherwise, what we're modeling for our kids, and they're getting our leftovers.
Yeah.
And we don't want that either, right?
No. Let's see what we have next here. Create a menu plan. And this is where I will say I'm not the best cook, so I'm not very good at creating a menu, but creating a menu plan is a great way to save money and time. A menu plan should be made in accordance with when you go to the grocery shop, and this could be weekly, bi-weekly, monthly. To make a meal plan, you need to determine what meals you will be eating for the time being and write down all necessary ingredients needed for the meals. This will not only save you time making trips to and from the grocery store, but also save you time in the grocery store by having a list of specific ingredients you need. Probably spend less money because when I go to the grocery store, I buy everything that I see. By creating a meal plan, you can also open yourself up into learning about portion control, which will help determine how much food you are wasting and help to avoid this in the future. I struggle with the meal plan, but I am slowly working my way into it. And I have found that the consistency is nice for my kids. They always know what time and what they're going to have for dinner, and it's not a scarcity for them. And I think sometimes I had grown up in a scarcity world, and that makes me nervous. So having that menu and planning it is a good thing. It's not an easy task to do, though.
No, I appreciate that. And, so much of our upbringing impacts the way we parent. And so how we pass on the what we had or didn't have and what we prioritize or don't prioritize. I think one of the things you said I really love, like that routine so that they know what time we're having dinner. So that gives freedom then to say, okay, back to setting timers or creating free time for our kids is important. That not every minute of home time is even scheduled. That's enough. They have that at school already, so let them have that. But then at that time, we're going to come together as a family. And hopefully, right, we can at least have some sort of family rhythm at the table, even if it's for only 5 minutes. And then in that, we can speak into that. How do we ask different questions about the day and reflect upon the day, and I think that's the parenting in the margin time. It's not a scheduled time in the sense that we're just eating a meal together. We're going to put the phones away. Mom and dad are going to put their phone away too, or whatever that looks like. Just to say we're going to be here for the next however few minutes. And thankfully, my wife is an amazing cook and loves to do this because we have gluten-free, dairy-free, low carb, no sugar, no corn. Like we got every allergy, I think, in our household possible. And so saving money is really important. Portion control, not wasting food, because we all are feeling that crunch of prices going up on food alone. But I think I know I'm a little scattered here, but when you have that routine, it also gives our kids permission, if mom and dad give permission, to invite a friend to join for dinner, right? And so it's like, hey, we have dinner every day at 6. Can I invite a friend over, mom or dad? And I think that's a really cool bonus add as well.
And I found it took me a while to get into this routine, and I learned by example, by being with somebody that did this daily in their household. And I'm like, I can do this. This isn't that difficult. It's something new. And when I do something new, I, put a toe in the water and bring it back out and slowly step into it. And now I'm very grateful, especially when the kids ask me, hey, Mom, what are we having for dinner tomorrow night? I'm like, ooh. They never ask me what to have for dinner because I'm not the best cook, but I have found meals that I've learned to create a menu plan to test out and get their feedback from them. And if any of you folks have any boys out there, getting feedback is a little bit difficult, especially I found not around food. They will tell you what they like and what they don't like. So it's not only managing that time by creating a menu, but it's learning your family and learning what you can do.
That's really good. Very good reminder, Cinta. Thank you for that. I think of other thing around food is, we talk about using time and prioritizing too, but maybe one of our kids would like to be a part of the meal prep. And so not only you're teaching a skill to help them learn to cook and to prepare it themselves, and so much of our world is already prepared for us. Yeah. And so, but I love cooking as a family together and say, hey, you're contributing to this too. It just can't always be about, all right, mom makes the meal, we all sit down and enjoy it. We can all put in little seasonings and sauces and cut up certain things. And I think there's so much, actually, that's a huge family win when we can make a meal together. And even when we have company, it doesn't have to be all prepared when the company arrives and we all sit down. It's, hey, we're going to make a meal together. And there's something really powerful when that happens too.
It's funny that you just said that because our next slide is teaching children's tasks. So that works in conjunction with, having them help make a meal. And while it might seem easier to do it ourselves, it's beneficial in the long run to start teaching the children to do simple tasks for themselves, like cooking a meal or making beds or tying shoes or lunch. It builds confidence in them and shows that they can be independent by starting with small tasks like tying their shoes or making their bed, making lunch. You can free up time for yourself as well as teach the children life skills that they will eventually need to know. And we did share this about building confidence in our children a couple months back and in our In Conversation event. And that independence builds so much confidence no matter what age that they are. And this is a twofold. You're not only building their confidence, but you're also creating time. You may not see it right away in the beginning, but as time progresses, where they learn to be more independent, you'll gain a little bit more time.
Yeah, and think through, at each phase of your kid's life. When they're younger, you see these examples on there of learning to tie their shoes or, but helping them contribute to the lunch, putting that together so that's just not always done for them or to them. It's you do it together. And I love that. And so thinking through at each age, what's appropriate for that upper elementary, that middle school student, that high school student, what are the tasks that they still need to do? And I think as a parent, like, I don't know how to change oil on my car, but I know people who do. So how can I invite them to be a part of our family? And how can I have them come and teach my kid? And so not all those opportunities are available at the school unless you take a specific class, which is so good that our school has such a great facility here in Elkhorn. But who can you invite in? And so that goes back to priority on people and relationships to say, hey, come and be a part of that. And so, tasks are great. They're endless. We're not all good at everything, and we're not bad at everything either. I think as a parent, like, there's so many areas I feel like I fall short in, but not every area do I fall short in. So what can I teach them that I am doing well and that I'm proud of? Like, hey, I make wise choices with our finances. I want my kids to copy that. Now I don't do as well when I overeat and I have 10 cookies instead of just one or maybe two. So I don't want them to copy that thing in me, but same thing with those tasks that our kids have before them.
Great points. And I liked the community aspect that you were talking about, bringing people in and learn, jack of all trades, so to speak, is what can I bring into my world and teach my kids on, as well as being taught myself. I think that is an era that I think is coming back. My grandparents grew up in that era where neighbors helped neighbors, or people down the road come and help on a quality you didn't know. And the next thing you know, a house is being built because somebody laid the foundation, somebody shingled, and somebody did the electric part of it. And it all comes together to build community and managing time on doing that as well.
Yeah, well said. And we hope to see more and more of that, as our businesses have become very specialized and families have become more separate, and so there's a lot of single parents or single dads. And so we need that village to raise our kids, that whatever that saying is, right? We need that to help. And so, but who are those people that you want to expose to your kids? They're going to be influenced by TV, by social media. They're going to be influenced by all those other people. But as parents, we get this really cool opportunity to say, I want you to be influenced by this person and invite them to be a part of your family. So if we can do that proactively, now we just expanded our influence as mom or dad and say, wow, now they have more adults that know that they love and care for them.
Greatly said. I like that a lot. And in doing that, we kind of make a list, right, of people that we want to bring into our lives or what's important to us. And that's another thing to do to manage time, is to create a to-do list, and in a timely essence. Sometimes I do a to-do list that is daily for the really big tasks, but sometimes I look at it throughout the week and look at my schedule and say, what do I definitely need to accomplish this week? And it should be visible where all members of the household can see it. And in my house, that's the fridge. This could either be on a whiteboard or a chalkboard, a piece of paper, and the things on the to-do list should feature the tasks, chores, homework, etc. for the upcoming week. The tasks and chores should be delegated to a certain person that everyone knows exactly what they should be doing for the week. A good way to make this work best is to make it interactive. And in the Google Drive that I shared with you folks, there's actually a chore list, and it's just a template, but you can add your chores onto that. And there's also different to-do lists on there. There's even different schedule lists on there. They're just templates, but it also will show you where I pick those templates up online, so you can go to the website too.
I couldn't agree more with this one. Creating those ideal starts to your day, even, and those small habits that we can build upon, and so creating that to-do list for your week, but also helping your kids do that too. And as we fast approach to summer, sometimes that's a scary time for parents. Like, well, I still got to go to work, and now my kids are at home, or they're with a sitter, or someone comes and checks in on them. And it can be this time where there's almost too much margin. And so we found instead of just creating that list of things that they had to do, is how do we do it in a collaborative way with our kids, and help them set goals throughout the summer. And not just, again, mom and dad tell them, hey, this is what has to get done. As, okay, what do you want to do? And how can I help you do that? And what are some of those goals and to-do list type of things to really see them flourish in the summer? But the same principles are applicable to the school day, and even right now as we get to that springtime, and they're going to be wanting to be outside, and the snow is going to be gone real soon, and warm weather's coming. So we're really excited about that. And when our kids were little, the chore charts with the fun things that they could take on and off and magnetize, and it was really fun, but they still love that now as teenagers. They're like, hey, I want the list. I want that thing so that I can know what to do. And it's about expectations, and how do they now fit into the rhythm of the family as they get older. And I think that's helping our kids learn that independence, that we're really raising adults. We're not raising kids. And so we're trying to help them so that when they leave our home, they'll flourish. And lists, and visible lists, and fun, creative ways. And I think collaborative can be really helpful for our kids.
One thing that you had shared about summertime, and in my household, summertime is like complete chaos, and I need more lists and time management because it's not as structured as when it is during the school year. And that structure is good for some kids and not for others, but to have that collaborative and the to-do list and the calendar during the summertime is more vital, I believe, than it is. It's vital all the way around, but more so than the school, because the school already creates a calendar for us, so to speak. So when you did share about summer, I'm like, whoa, you're so spot on with that.
Yeah. And our kids thrive in that routine. Like you said, just like our little puppy thrives in routine, our kids thrive in routine, and actually we do too. And so how do we create that for ourselves, even in those different rhythms of flow, and that's why proactively looking ahead to say, okay, how do we do that? And, one of these, a couple of these things when it comes to helping our family schedules and helping our kids thrive. A couple of phrases that we've adopted. One is hope is not a strategy. We all hope our kids turn out great. We hope that they'll do this. Well, that's not really a strategy, just a hope. It's how do we help them? How do we help with to-do lists and calendars and priorities, and setting goals that are small, start small and build really good confidence to that, I can do this. I can begin to live on my own. And because letting go is scary for us as the parent, but it's also a little terrifying for those kids too. And as we think about preparing them with these lists, another phrase that's really helpful for me is the idea of vagueness, right? Sometimes we set vague goals or we give vague direction. That's not helpful. How can we be as specific as possible with our expectations, our hope? Because sometimes we as parents, we create our own struggles.
Yeah.
Is that hey, kids, just go do this. Well, what is this? And so helping them to sit back, that's the to-do list, that's the SMART goals, those types of things that can be really helpful in setting a family schedule.
I like how you say about being specific and not so vague. And I'm at fault on being vague. And I think I'm more at fault on being vague for myself is fear that I won't complete that very detailed, specific goal. And I need to give myself permission because we give children permission. We should give our adults permission, ourselves permission too, to go, okay, if it didn't happen today, there's always tomorrow. And that's where I do need to remind myself. And in doing that, remind my children too.
Yeah. And reminding ourselves we're not perfect. I think that's exactly what you said. Giving yourself permission to start over tomorrow. We want to show our kids forgiveness and grace. Well, we need to give ourselves that same grace and forgiveness because we're not perfect and we're gonna mess up. And I think apologizing to our kids is a really cool thing. That when we can actually say, you know what, Dad, I as a dad, I blew it here. Will you forgive me? And because it can be just like, well, again, we're modeling a schedule for ourselves. And if we're modeling such a hectic pace, that's what they're going to copy. And then they're going to feel that tension and they're going to live in that tension. And then when we're stretched so thin, is that the life that I want for myself? And then that affects the snowball effect. It affects our physical health, our mental health, our spiritual health, all those areas of our lives that become impacted when our schedules just get out of whack.
It's amazing how time management affects everything in our world. And I think, speaking of, we are talking about stats. And so the average household wastes 31.9% of the food that its members obtain. And I know come garbage night, I do throw away a lot of leftovers. So that definitely is, I feel correct. And then 18% of people have proper time management systems. An average people waste 90 minutes a day. And that should be on social media. I'm at fault on that, and I probably do more than 90 minutes if I added all the 5 or 10 minutes that I feel I have free and I'm scrolling TikTok to find a good recipe. I will say that. And the average parent spends just under 2 hours spending time caring for their child each day. So I feel safe to say the most precious things in our life is our child, and we only do 2 hours. Spending time on caring for them seems very minimal in the big scheme of things, and probably look at that margin that you were speaking of, Pastor. I think that's where we can pick up more of that.
Yeah, and if we, it's a scary thought if we evaluate our own or have someone evaluate us, have our kids evaluate us, that of those 2 hours, are we actually present with them? We might physically be present, but are we there mentally? Or are we thinking about this or that hard thing that happened at work today, or we're trying to find that escape on our, our social media or whatever that is, or yeah, we may be sitting on the same couch watching a TV show, and there's huge value in that. I think that we can do that together. But if that's all we do, right, and where's a balance in that? And I go back to, again, it's about me management, cutting out that T and that I. It's about looking for the priorities and how do we model for those and do that proactively, so that some of these stats, maybe we don't have to fall prey to those. And we can change that system and say, how do we do this? And we can't do it alone, because there's days, weeks, months where I fail in so many of these areas, and I could be a part of that. But the people I surround myself with that can help me, hold me accountable, encourage me, I think that's so important. As a parent, I need other parents. And so that's, again, it's a modeling thing that we need we need good friends in our own lives if we want our kids to have good friends, because we know how influenced they are. Well, so are we, and by the people that we hang out with.
Great insights, Pastor. It's not just time management, but I think it's life management, right? I think everything works together in what we do as a community to be stronger.
Absolutely. And there's so many great resources in that community, right? We have the schools, which is a great resource. There's great other community aspects to our community that want to help with our parenting, with ourselves, and I think there's great church families too. And so I think that can be a place that people find those friends and find that community and find help for their parenting and for their schedules, because we all at times need that education, that encouragement, to continue to grow and learn.
Very well said. I think we are at the end. Thank you very much. If there's any questions, please, you can type them in the chat, or you do have my email. You can just send me information via email. Otherwise, thank you again for another In Conversation event. We look forward to seeing you next month. And Pastor Nate, thank you very much for your time and your expertise.
Thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Have a great night, everybody. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.